Welcome to Tami's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tami.
Hello, happy Wednesday, wherever you are in the world. I know here we're getting a warm spell in Asheville, which is lovely, and all the bears are out. They're eating as many acorns as they can find. And yesterday when I was on a bike ride, I saw 3 different ones in various parts. And as I go by, they just look up and they just roll their eyes, and I keep going. So all the squirrels are busy, all the little chipmunks are busy. Everybody, the wildlife is so busy at this time of year, but it is absolutely gorgeous here in our part of the world. And I hope it is wherever you are and are enjoying the weather, enjoying fall, and enjoying Wednesday. And so I was thinking today, I really appreciate you coming and sharing time, which is probably a very busy time in a day, to stop what you're doing to come join me and come join all the animals as they bring all of us really together. And what better topic than karma, right? That we're all connected. There's this amazing matrix and interwoven energy that we all share. So, when I was thinking about this piece of the show, I realized how closely it also relates to soul paths. And we'll talk about that as we get into the show. But I'm sure, if you're like me, we've probably all heard the word karma, right? So this is what I would call a karmic gathering when we all come together like this. Hi, Diane. It's good to see you. Patty Weeks. Hello, hello. Oh, Claire says, beautiful sunsets you have in Asheville. Happy Wednesday, and everyone in this sacred group. The sunsets are stunning here, and they're never the same. And I can be out there taking a photo to share with you all and turn my back, and then it's changed again. So I'm like, all these shots on the camera, and like, which one do I pick? How do I share it? So I appreciate you allowing me to share my world with you as you share yours with me. Deanna, good to see you. And Pamela, hello, hello. Hello, Kat, good to see you. I was thinking of you earlier. And then Yogi Works at Aloha from Vegas. Oh, from Barbara and Yogi, face red heart shape. Very cute, very cute. As we grow together in these shows, I feel like there's this almost like a connective theme that's now developing, and much more able to see it. It's all joined together. Hello, Nikki and Constance. It's good to have you here. I really am glad. I was thinking about you, I kid you not, earlier. Fascinating. See, you all arrive and the animals arrive before we even actually get on the show. So, I'm going to ask you a question, like, how many of you have ever felt an inexplicable bond with your pet? Like, I feel an inexplicable bond with you all. So I'm wondering, with your pet, have you ever felt like this piece of, I know you, like, I don't know how I know you, but you feel familiar to me. It's like we've met up with each other again, right? So this show is going to be like an exploration of that unseen world, those unseen bonds that connect our hearts and our souls together. Pamela says, one of my sweet fur family is at the vet at the moment. He has to be neutered. He will be home in a couple of hours, but we miss him even just for a few hours. Absolutely. And we can always, when they're going through surgeries like that, send them love and light through your heart. And all of us here on the show can do that as well. So I love that you shared his journey with us today. I'm sure he's going to do quite beautifully. You'll have to let me know, email me and let me know how he's done. Kat says, I feel the same with pets. and this community. It is community, absolutely. I agree. We are growing together. And hello, Patty. It's good to see you. I'm sure it's pretty there too. Deanna says, I knew Dewey before he came in, and now Bear seems to have part of that. Yes, Deanna. And we have talked about that amazing similarities between the two of them. So, it's interesting when we have others come in and then we start seeing these pieces like, that's interesting. You remind me of, and even, it's like the children, and they remind us of grandma or grandpa, or they have similar kind of characteristics. We will definitely, Pamela sends good energy to Shanti. Is that how you pronounce it? That's pretty. So, question for you. What were the signs that told you the animal was for you? What were the signs? Deanna, what were the signs that you saw Dewey and you just knew? You heard his bark and you knew? Or how many of you have had that? Like you go to the shelter, or you see an animal, or you pass one and you just recognize it. Like, what were the signs for you in those cases? Claire says it was the immediate look in the eyes, right? Yes, definitely. Constance, he picked me, paw on cage, and direct eye contact. They're really good communicators, right? The cat says the intuitive connection is beyond our knowing, but it's definitely there. Yes. Yeah, it's that unseen knowing, right? Pamela, I felt it in my heart for all my fur kids. That's beautiful. Jeff says, for me, with Daisy, she just wasn't interested in anyone else but me from the day she came to live with us. Yes, absolutely. Her eyes were on you. That's beautiful. You couldn't miss it, right? Deanna says, I heard his bark from the shelter on a hold, so couldn't even see him for 5 days. As soon as I could, it was like, oh yeah, we're together. Like picking up where we left off, right? Susie says, Marshmallow was the very first cat I saw at the shelter, and he saw me. Susie, I love the way you worded that, because, in all our lives, we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to know we matter. And I love that you said he saw you. Beautiful. And Nancy, I just knew, no question. Well, Nancy, where'd you know? Did you know it in your head? Did you know it in your heart? Did you know it in your solar plexus? Did you know it in your pinky finger? Where'd you know it? Where in your body did you know it? If you could pinpoint it, I'd be interested. So, as I mentioned earlier, I've often taught about soul contracts and soul paths. Karmic pathways fall into this spectrum. Ultimately, we are all on our karmic journey and a karmic pathway. Yogi Work says, when I was sent to rescue a dog with broken leg, I was greeted with BJ, still smiling and happy. Sans working leg. She would not go home with anyone else. That's beautiful. I love the way they pick us, and they, it's almost like foolproof. It's like we can't miss it sometimes. And Claire says, when we saw our collie Jeff, it was the look, but he was the exact copy of Pika in every way except color. Instant recognition. IR, I love that, instant recognition. And Pamela says, I saw a pic of my Maine Coon and his brothers. He was spoken for. They asked if I wanted one of the other cats. I was like, no. And then got a call. The adoption fell through with the other person. I love that. And that's a lot of times the way it happens. My teacher and mentor, Sharon, always taught me, we just need to step forward for the animal and let Providence, let God, let the universe do the work, to take it from there. Sometimes it's that piece of stepping forward that we think is not enough, but it is. When you share your intention you claim it and you speak it to the universe, and it makes a big difference. It sends out a huge energy wave. So for you all, I know we've all heard karma, right? What word would you say that you associate with karma? If we hear, oh, that was your karma, or this is a karmic relationship, I'm curious what like words you associate with it. And while you think of that, Charmaine says, Blue picked me. I picked him up. He crawled under my chin and wrapped around my neck. Oh, gosh. Our hearts were forever together. That would be a beautiful image, Charmaine, to have somebody draw that. That's really lovely, because when I was reading it, I got two hearts joined together. If you have somebody that's a great artist, that'd be beautiful. Kat says, let spirit come into our hearts and soul. Susie says, meant to be. The karma, meant to be. All right. Kat says, a return of our energy that we put into the field. Okay, I like it. Marge, you're never late. You're always here. But I'm glad you got in. Nancy, everywhere, mind, heart, solar plexus, skin, tingling, and unquestioned knowing. Yeah, I like that you're telling me that. This is to do with 3 dogs. There were many other animals in my life. Oh my goodness. So if karma is meant to be, when I looked it up just for the sake of our discussion today, it revolves around cause and effect, and where the intent and actions of an individual influence the future of that individual. So Renee, if you would put up I have a short little slide just to show you. So if it's action and reaction, intention matters, maybe beyond a single lifetime. Would you say it's the balancing law of the universe? These are some of the things I pulled, from looking it up, just literally. I was waiting for it. Cindy says, we named our current golden Karma because a similar experience, she was meant to be ours. You did not just say that, because I literally, when I was thinking somebody's got a dog here that was named Karma, is named Karma. That is hysterical. The animals are playing games with us. It's fun games. So why do we have karmic relationships anyway? Personal growth, self-awareness, spiritual growth. I want to share something with you. Renee, if you would put up the little cover of Deepak's book. How many of you are familiar with the book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, from Deepak Chopra? It's an older book. It's from the 90s. I've got it here in front of me. That graphic's a lot better than what my book looks like, because I've worn it down and I used it over the years, and I have pages turned down and underlined. But I want to read you a couple of different things that I think would be helpful. And then, he says, karma is both. Well, first I want to read you this quote, because I thought this was really good. Karma is the eternal assertion of human freedom. Our thoughts, our words, and deeds are the threads of the net which we throw around ourselves. And that's Swami Vivekananda. And then Deepak says, karma is both action and the consequence of that action. It's cause and effect simultaneously, because every action generates a force of energy that returns to us in kind. And then he says, you and I are essentially infinite choice makers. In every moment of our existence, we are in that field of all possibilities where we have access to an infinity of choices. Some of these choices are made consciously, while others are made unconsciously. But the best way to understand and maximize the use of karmic law is to become consciously aware of the choices we make in every moment. And skipping over, he says, in other words, most of us, even though we are infinite choice makers, have become bundles of conditioned reflexes that are constantly being triggered by people and circumstances into predictable outcomes of behavior. Most of us, as a result of our conditioning, have repetitious and predictable responses to the stimuli in our environment. Our reactions seem to be automatically triggered, and we forget that these are still choices we're making in every moment of our existence. We're just making them unconsciously. And so I wanted to read this other part to you, because I was like, I just love how it's worded. You'll see why in a minute. So he says, you know, there's an interesting mechanism to help you make spontaneously correct decisions or choices, and it's in the body. At the moment you consciously make a choice, pay attention to your body and ask your body, if I make this choice, what happens? If your body sends a message of comfort that it's the right choice, it will be comfortable, like it'll feel comfortable. If your body sends a message of discomfort, then it's not the appropriate choice. So it's at the comfort or the discomfort. And it says for some people, the message of comfort is in the area of the solar plexus, but for most people, it's in, here's where it's my favorite part, the area of the heart. Put your attention in the heart and ask your heart what to do. Then wait for the response, a physical response in the form of a sensation. It may be the faintest level of feeling, but it's there in your body. Only the heart knows the correct answer. Most people think the heart is mushy and sentimental, but it's not. The heart is intuitive, it's holistic, it's contextual, it's relational. It doesn't have a win-lose orientation. It taps into the cosmic computer, the field of pure potentiality, pure knowledge, and infinite organizing power, and takes everything into account. At times, it might not even seem rational. I can vouch for that one. But the heart has a computing ability that is far more accurate, far more precise than anything within the limits of rational thought. I don't know about you, but I think it's helpful when I reread these things. I'm reminded of, you know, we're all making choices all the time, and they do have effects and on us and others. Nancy says, my solar plexus is always right. Do you depend on that too? Is that your like go-to for yourself? How many of you, as you're, you know, heard me reading this and thinking about it, how many of you go to your heart? How many of you go to, where does it, is it in your solar plexus? I'm curious about that. So Renee, if you would put up, you know, let's go over maybe just a few of the pieces of what we're doing with our karma, about learning lessons, resolving past karma, balancing energy, growth and evaluation, compassion and understanding. How you bet you think about that one in the world today, eh? Personal growth and self-awareness. As you chime in, I love it. Yep. I go to my heart. Marge, love it. Heart. Deborah says heart. Kim, heart. Isn't it interesting? Various parts that you already know where to drop into. None of you so far have told me, I go to my head, I go to my mind. So that's good information for you. You've got a very accurate computing system within you. So I compiled a list, like what are some karmic lessons humans might encounter in relationships? So Renee, if you would put that up. Empathy, maybe. Forgiveness. Take a look at that list. Patience, responsibility, courage, fearlessness, self-love. That's a big one, isn't it? Balance, humility, letting go, truthfulness, compassion, perseverance, generosity, acceptance, gratitude, understanding, independence, trust, unconditional love. So do any of those resonate as part of your life's experiences maybe? They may not always be easy, and they might require facing challenges and overcoming hardships. But when we're learning these kinds of things in life, they definitely lead to personal and spiritual growth. Marge says, giving of yourself. Kat says, authenticity. Yes, I was going to ask you all, what else? For the sake of the slide, I could only put so many. There's others out there. Nancy says most of them. Susie says perseverance. Susie, you're definitely, you've got that one. Most definitely. So all these things we're learning, and, you know, sometimes, do you agree, we're learning them on top of each other? It's not just one or two, it's like a cluster. I would say cluster lessons. So if you have thought of any others that are on the list or weren't on the list, let me know, because I'm curious. So Renee, if you would put up the Soul Speak shift, I've got a little mini exercise thinking thing for you. So think about all the lessons you've had in your life. Which ones resonate with you on the most on that list? Are any of them what you would call life themes? Which ones have you worked on in the past? Which ones are you currently working on? How do you know? That's a good one. What informs you? Any of you out there currently working on some of the things on that list? It's like, the lesson du jour for all of us, probably, even as we step out into the world, get behind, in the car, or get to the grocery store, plenty of lessons await us. Kat says, life themes that caused expansion and growth. Yes. Yeah, and they're not always easy, are they, Kat? Rarely are they easy. We tend to want to stay all comfy in our comfort zones. We don't grow in our comfort zones. We don't. It's too easy just to stay like a warm blanket around us. Jeff says, too many lessons the last few years to list. Susie Everett says, patience, putting myself first. Self-love, right? Kat says, my experience is that they are the hardest. Yes, letting go, Nancy says, is still current. The time of year, Nancy, is also we're letting go. If you think about it, the trees are letting go, losing leaves. So that's it. Fall is definitely a time for that piece, and the energy supports that. But we probably all need to work on letting go of things that we're holding on to that no longer serve us. Kat says we don't learn from success after all, and I guess it depends on what your definition of success is. Deanna, authenticity to self. Charmaine, definitely life themes. It's so hard to step out and not worry about everyone else. Yeah, putting all the energy in ourselves for once, putting on that oxygen mask ourselves, right? For all the overgivers and the nurturers and the healers out there, all of you on the list, definitely. But it's good to think about it, because we go through our lives so busy. It's good to reflect as you go through, because then you're getting the benefit out of whatever you're going through at the time. So, Renee, I think I gave you this slide. It says note at the top. Yeah. This is just a sidebar here. Karma doesn't always reveal itself within the framework of the experience. It does, but we can't necessarily see it. A lot of times it'll come after. It can continue to unravel years later, long after the relationship has ended. Have any of you found that to be, as we reflect back on things, that there's kind of this rich field of information, and to some degree, all relationships are karmic. That is, every single relationship has a purpose. And Renee, if you'd put up the quote from A Course in Miracles, this is just one of my faves from the years. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. Every moment is a holy encounter. And the reason I like that is because it reminds me of the sacredness of life. As I'm passing the bear who looks at me and says, "You're going to take my acorns?" I'm like, "Nope, no, sir, not me. I am moving right along." Or the little chipmunk that zooms across the road. Every moment, every encounter is a holy encounter. It's sacred. Janet has a dog that passes her. This is not her dog, and it looks at her and it stares, and she stares at it, and the dog doesn't stop staring until it passes her. That's a holy encounter. Our being together here, same thing. I always feel that because we always discover new things during our time together. So what are the signs that you are in a karmic relationship now or in the past? Renee, if you would put that up. Should be the next one. Instant connection or repulsion. I'll tell you about that one in a minute. Intense emotions, challenging lessons, repetition of patterns, feeling of incompleteness, strong bond, dysfunction or imbalance. And this is with people to people. We'll get to the animals here in just a minute. Obsession, fleeting duration, came in quick, left quick, personal growth, significant timing. Always one of my faves to talk about is the timing. So the instant connection or repulsion. So either we're very drawn or we're very not drawn. Have any of you ever had that? Like you don't realize why they just, I don't know, they just may rub you wrong and you can't figure it out. Pay attention. And we can talk about animals too. Cindy, I've had several reviews about the holy encounters. I'm glad you like that. It's just it's a good reminder. Every encounter is a holy encounter. Puts us in our present moment. So if any of you felt like you've had a karmic relationship, do you have one now, you think, that you can recognize? Have you had one in the past that's come and gone? With people. We're still on the people part right now. Kat says, this is an absolute sacred space where each of us can hold space to be safe and to express what we feel. Yes, it's quite beautiful. It is actually an incubator that we are in together. And Susie says, yes, I've had many. I'm wondering, this is just dropping in for all of us. I'm wondering if we should maybe spend some time and track those and just, in a moment of just sitting quiet, reflecting back on what have my karmic relationships been, with whom, and what was the meaning of it? Like, what did I learn? What was the whole point? It's too easy to say, oh, that was a mistake, or, that was hard, or that was terrible. Oh my goodness, every relationship has so many gifts to offer, especially the tough ones. Deanna said her parents' karmic relationship. And I would say, wouldn't you all, that definitely would be for all of us, that we have karma with our family members. So Renee, if you pop up the soul speak shift, I'm full of these little pop-up exercises for you. So how would you know if you've completed a karmic relationship? Curious. Is it a change in perception? Something that is felt and then known? Is it because the situations don't keep repeating themselves? Think about it for a minute. How do you know? You just told me, yes, parents, and Susie, I've had many karmic relationships, but how do you know? And how do you know you've completed it? Maybe you hadn't completed it, but how do we know that piece? Does our perception change? What goes off that tells us, oh my gosh, that was a really significant relationship? Where do we feel it? Do we feel it in our hearts? And then our minds open up? Or do we happen to notice that this thing we did years ago and we kept repeating, we're just not doing that anymore? Like it just drops. I will tell you, from my experience and what I have learned with the animals, karmic relationships, once they end, it's just like, it's quiet. It's just the energy just drops. The hook is no longer there. Jeff said, I finally got a repeating situation to stop by stepping back and wondering why I had to continue dealing with it. The question quickly revealed the answer. That is so helpful, Jeff, to all of us. That would be good for all of us to do. Just step back a minute and ask the Johnny Wonder question of, why am I continuing to deal with this? What is up with that? The question quickly revealed the answer. Thank you for sharing that. Susie said, family I've had to end because of toxic behaviors, need to protect myself. It's that investment in yourself. And knowing that you may love them, but it's not healthy for you. Absolutely. Kat said it's felt and it's known and it resonates on a very deep level. And Charmaine says, I feel for me, I feel at peace in my heart. A big lesson was forgiveness. And that forgiveness is really a selfish thing when you think about it. That's interesting. Selfish in the taking care of yourself and others. Selfish in what way? Because we tend to view selfishness as, we're probably all taught that. Oh, you shouldn't be selfish. I always say if somebody's calling you selfish, you're on the right track. Deborah says, right, toxicity, relationship, or environment. Agreed. And I like the peace in the heart that Charmaine mentioned. Deanna says, sometimes it seems to just shift and melt away, completed. Yeah, the energy just drops. It literally just drops. So what about your pet? That's who all brought us here today, right? Do they also have karmic lessons and soul paths to experience? So if that's the case, and that we're a yes, they do, or maybe they do, what would that animal's karmic pathway look like? I mean, depending on the consciousness level of the individuals, animals might be learning about what? Renee, if you would put that slide up. Let me see if I can read that top one. Yes. So, trust and bonding, adaptation and resilience, protection and care, socialization, overcoming fear or aggression, coexistence, acceptance of love and care, like being able to receive it, endurance and suffering. I'll talk about that in a minute. Teaching humans, motherhood, friendship, family, healing, vulnerability. It was when I was making the list with the animals, actually this list was a lot longer and I couldn't fit it all on. The animals were sharing with me that the pieces of the soul paths and soul contracts are very, very karmic. It's like the agreement to, this is going to be my soul path, and this is how it's going to show up and come into my life as motherhood, where we're learning about that. And Renee, if you would put that back up just a minute. How many of you relate with your animals, have seen any of this or have thought about it maybe? I know for me, while you're thinking about it, for me, I've definitely seen so many experiences with like the overcoming fear or aggression, the acceptance of love, like receiving it. The endurance and suffering is something that I think collective animals have come in to teach, and they are in service to humans. They're in service to help us wake up, to help us find compassion. And so it's when we see suffering that causes that piece of us to open and melt and soften. And then I'm going to read a couple comments, Renee, if you keep that up. Maria says, I've learned to speak up for those that can't speak for themselves. Justice. I've never been that way until losing my Louie. Wow. That's a beautiful lesson and a beautiful legacy that you're carrying forward. Beautiful. I love that. Marge said Isla was a breeder on a puppy mill farm. I believe she was given to me to learn love and trust. And she said, Isla said she was given the best life from me. And the thing about animals is they receive it. They lean into receiving. They're, even if they're super independent and it's been tough all on their own kind of thing, they warm up just like people do eventually. And it's beautiful to watch that kind of opening. Many of my animals that, have come to learn friendship and family. I've had many animals in my sessions tell me Thank you. Now I know what it's like to be in a family. I know what it's like to be a sibling or a son or a daughter. I know what it's like to belong. Healing, definitely. And oh my goodness, that vulnerability piece. Think about all of us. I'm fine. No, really, I'm fine. Don't need anything. Sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable, and the animals open themselves in that way. These kind of lessons that they come to learn reflect the depth and value of animals' experiences and their interconnectedness with humans on a spiritual level. Nancy says, I have a sweet little girl at present that is learning to relax and trust. A retired poodle mom that was seriously stressed. She's learning to play and have fun. Isn't that just the most beautiful thing to watch, Nancy? Where they get younger, right? It's like us. They touch into their inner child and their inner puppy or their inner kitten. It's so beautiful to see that come through. That in itself is healing on a very, very deep level. Deanna says learning, hearing more and more, being an advocate for the animals. And Nikki said, I experienced most of the positive on the list throughout India's life. Sadly, the end of her life was endurance and suffering and loss of trust, which has not yet been restored yet. I'm working towards it. I love that you're aware of that and that you are working toward that, and that it is something that you see as, being where you are and reaching for more. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Deborah Lynn says, my little guy is from Puppy Mill, so trust and fear looks to me for that, but I notice where he's coming from. He can see my anxiety sometimes. Oh yeah, they mirror us quite a bit. Definitely, they mirror us. So how do you know if you have or had a karmic relationship with your pet? What are the signs, would you say? And Renee, if you put that up. So as I read the list, I'd like to know, what are you seeing that you resonate with? Because this would be if this is a karmic relationship and you can recognize it, is there a feeling of familiarity? Did you feel the healing presence? Was it of fleeting duration? Did it have or does it have a significant emotional impact? Challenging lessons with the animal? Synchronicities with the animal? Life lessons that you're both learning? Have you experienced a profound sense of grief at the loss of that animal? Like the deep sense of loss that you can't really explain to anybody. Did you have an instant bond or repulsion? Deep emotional connection immediately? You can't explain why? Intuitive communication between you? Was it significant timing when the animal came in? Do you feel like you both grew or you're growing and healing? And that you've done it or do it together? What about the intense separation anxiety? Most of us say, my animal, it has that, but what about us? Like what if we have intense anxiety leaving our babies? It works both ways. That's a sign. Unexplainable behavior where you just you recognize the behavior in this animal. Susie said synchronicities. My wasabi that passed over guided me to marshmallow. Yes, I like that. And yes, and to be aware of the synchronicities is just, it's sweet. It's like you get to see behind the scenes of the universe. I love that. Marge says profound sense of grief with Isla's passing. Yes, that's karmic for sure. Catland and everlasting love and a deep knowing. Yes, agreed. And Deborah, instant bond and time. So you picked up on the timing and you feel like it applied to you. That's interesting. And Mary says instant bond with both my fur babies and my grand fur baby Yes, deep and profound grief with all three of them. I just want to take a deep breath when I read that, so I can feel that from you. Marge said when she saw Isla for the first time and met her, I knew in my heart she was mine to love. So the reason, and Renee, if you'd put that list back up just a second, the reason I mentioned significant emotional impact and the significant timing is you will hear me say time and time again, especially about the timing, they come in many, many times when we're in life transitions, when we've had deep losses. They come in, we're not expecting an animal, but here they are. Pay attention to timing always. And this would be in all of your life, but in relation to the animals, I always say they come in on cue right when they're supposed to, and harder to understand, they also leave on cue. And what I mean by that is the completed karma of a completed life might be, you might be able to feel that. You might be going into another phase of your life. It's always connected. And as I help people understand this piece of it, it helps make sense of what otherwise feels like it's possibly too soon. Many of you write to me, it was just too soon. But if we open up and look at what's happening in our own lives, we can understand a lot of times these animals get in place. Their bodies are not going to last. They get in place so that they can work with us from the other side. Catherine says, nothing in life is a coincidence. The significant emotional impact too is important about, like, the animal has affected you in a way that is almost unexplainable. And maybe people don't understand it. Maybe they don't get it. Animals serve as catalysts for growth in human relationships. Their karmic connection might be reflected in the dynamics of a relationship with a partner, family members, or the family as a whole might experience shared karma. Renee, if you'd pop up little Wilbur. So this is little Wilbur. I had a mother beagle come to me many, many years ago. She'd been living in a pig pen with a pig. And so I went to help her. She had like 9 babies. Wilbur was one of them. I named him after the Charlotte's Web characters. He was Precious, Disney Precious. As it turned out, these babies, they went out to the world, beautiful, beautiful babies, shiny, just beautiful. And turned out they started having problems, and I couldn't figure out, like, what in the world? They're going to these great homes. I knew it was the right match. What in the world's happening? And little Wilbur would bump himself, and he would have hematomas and bleeding and all kinds of stuff. So long story short, there were some tests run. It turns out this little group had hemophilia, which is pretty rare. But of course, it would be this little healing group that came to me. And Wilbur went to a family, young couple of small children, an older golden retriever, and he was having all these bumping incidences. And it turned out that the wife had a strong aversion to seeing blood. Well, think about that for a moment. Of course, they would get the pup that would bring this up. So when I mentioned that animals are catalysts, they are. And they bring up in us a lot of times just by their sheer existence, which in this case, it brought up the struggles in that particular marriage. It brought up a lot of the things that needed to be looked at, that were hard for these people to look at, because they'd been too busy with children. They'd been really too busy to take a look at their own relationships. And so, the wife really struggled. And yeah, it was a rough patch. Wilbur came back to me, 4 months old. I had him for a week before he passed. Sweet puppies that ever were, pure love, and getting out in the world and doing their work. And, you all have asked me several times, well, it's too soon, and why does it happen to puppies? And this is a karmic relationship for sure with this family and with me, for them coming to me. So I'm just trying to let you see all the pieces that connect so you can do that in your own life. So Renee, if you would put up the next slide with, I wanted you to see, I thought this was super interesting. So you see where I have like human and karmic relationships on one side, pet, human, karmic relationship. So let's look, I'm going to read down the left, read down the right. So human, instant connection or repulsion, intense emotions, challenging lessons, repetition of patterns, feeling of incompleteness, strong bond. We have dysfunction or imbalance. If, obsession is in the relationship, if it's fleeting duration, personal growth, significant timing comes in at a specific time, feeling of familiarity, significant emotional impact. So look at the right side, which would be the pet human karmic relationship. What do you see that I see? Instant bond, deep emotional connection, intuitive communication, significant timing, mutual growth and healing, intense separation anxiety, unexplainable behavior, feeling of familiarity, healing presence, fleeting duration, significant emotional impact, challenging lessons, synchronicities, life lessons, and profound sense of loss and grief, which could also go on the other side as well, but I ran out of room. So while you're looking at this, do you see how we're all interconnected with one another, that we're all in karmic relationships together, and that the pets, our animals are having their own experience while we're having ours. And, who would have thought? It's shared. We're growing together. We're not separate. We're always, interlocking in our growth and our experience. Jeff says that separation anxiety was something I never experienced until Daisy came into my life. I hated being without her. Yes, it's very, very painful. So how many of you, and how many of these you check off for yourself that you've seen and they're like, well, my pet and I are really sharing these same things. We had an instant bond, and it's so obvious. Life is about soul growth for all of us, collectively and individually. So question for you, would recognizing this, and I'm assuming you are recognizing this, between this soulful bond you have between you and your pet, would that change the way you view your life's journey and the choices you make? After looking at these lists and talking, would it change how you see life? Would you see it in a different way? Do you see it in a different way now? Would it help you understand rather than judge behaviors, yours or another's? Liz says all of these are interconnected. How many of you are seeing a lot of similarities on the list between what you're going through and what you've experienced with your pet? When we put them side by side, it is really amazing. The human relationships are very similar to our animal-human relationships. It's just different bodies. Deanna says it gives a different perspective. It does. I agree. Nancy says this occurred to me over 30 years ago. It did change my life. That's beautiful. Made you more conscious, right? And made your choices more conscious. Yes, I would agree. And so I want to put up a little, Renee, if you put up that Richard Bach quote, I've always liked this. If you back it up to Richard's, well, maybe I skipped Richard. Let me just read it to you. So we teach best what we most need to learn, right? We teach what we need to learn. And so we're always connected in that way. And it's always good to know that whatever we're talking about, we need to hear it too. When I'm talking, when I'm working on one-on-ones, oh, trust me, I am absolutely listening on a deeper level, because I know what's being channeled is coming through from my ears as well. So let's do a really fun exercise real quick if you're in. So Renee, if you throw up the cards. So I'm going to do a little intuitive card reading real quickly. So it's your karmic intuitive pet card. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3 for people that are just able to listen and can't see the video. So just don't overthink this. Just pick one in your mind. Just go for it. Just pick one. All right. And Renee, I'm going to turn over the flip side and read it to you. So 1 is deep emotional connection. 2 is feeling of familiarity. 3 is instant bond. Now, what I'm wanting you to receive from this reading that you just did for yourself, that is what you're working on. That is what your intuition is drawing your attention to. So it makes me wonder, for instance, 3 of you picked 2. It makes me wonder, as you go through your day, as you interact with other animals, with your own animals, if you're not going to be picking up more of this, like other feelings of familiarity, because this intuitive read was literally your higher self talking to you without you realizing. We bypassed your mind real quick. Let me see. 3, I saw 3. Marge says instant bond. Well, Marge, I wonder for you, Renee, if you would keep those up, I wonder for you if you're going to see some instant bonds beyond this show and beyond, what we were talking about with Isla. These are going to be going through your days, by the way. Susie says 2. Okay, pay attention to that. Diane says 1. Diane, I wonder if you're going to be going through and feeling these emotional connections with no good reason for it. Pay attention. That's your intuition. That's your higher self talking. Oh, Deanna says, I picked 1. Turning over card brought me to tears. Oh, see? Your heart led the way. Your heart did this. Your minds didn't do it. Nikki says 3. Pay attention. And Janet 2. Wonder who you're going to feel familiar with. Is it the squirrels? Is it the dog walking by you? Nancy's 3. Deborah Lynn 1. Love it. Mary says 3. Recently connected with a stray that I wanted to foster, and I still feel a connection. So I am following her journey through her rescue. That is beautiful. I'm so glad you shared that with us, because your intention, and when you shine a light on an animal, we may not be able to take the animal in. We can't do everything, but we can do this. Shine a light from your heart and they receive it, and it lights them up to other people. Love it. Love it. See, the cards are already helping all of us. Catherine says 3 and Barb says 3. Instant bond. I wonder who you all are going to have an instant bond with. It's curious now. Susie says, I want to help all animals that are in bad situations. Absolutely. I know what you mean. So I'd love to, I've got this. Let's do this one more time. All right. You ready? So Renee, if you would put the next set of like 1, 2s, or 3s up for me. All right. Now get out of your head. I can hear already, well, I saw 2, therefore I got to pick 2. No, just jump on it. Pick 1. Got it? All right. Renee, if you'd flip it. So you're coming in to say 1 is intuitive communication. 2, significant timing. 3, healing presence. So if you're listening to the audio, for instance, and you just randomly pick 2, be thinking about significant timing. Why is that important in your life right now? What is that trying to tell you? What are your animals trying to tell you? If you pick 3, do you need more healing presence in your life? What's calling you to pay attention to? Catherine says intuitive communication. We are all doing that right now. That's what you're working on, and that's what the animals are helping you work on. Isn't this really cool? See, it's not difficult. It really isn't. Your heart picks. Get out of your head, and then you're like home free. Your heart will lead you right to it, and your higher self is just like showing you what's right in front of you that you're now seeing so clearly. Oh, Nikki says this is related to timing tomorrow. Ooh, tell us more. Or, when you get there, share that. Patty says, Freckles passing taught me to help Zen Kitty pass. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm seeing, let's see, y'all are all, let's see, 1s, 2s, a lot of 3s. And 1s. Yeah. Whatever you picked, that is what you're paying attention to, or you're being asked to pay attention to with the animals and in your world. Maria says, I picked 3. I'm getting a puppy tomorrow, so hoping it helps with healing. Wow, that's really exciting. Absolutely. That's what I'm feeling. Sorry, I got distracted because I just started getting downloads with that. The healing presence that yes, the puppy is actually and absolutely going to come through with healing. So please keep us, informed. This is like a cliffhanger. Susie said, I hear animals calling me to help them. Send them love, Susie. Send them your healing presence. All of you all have experience with intuitive communication. We do this every time we get together. You're pro-intuitives yourself. And we've all experienced that significant timing when we come into each other's lives, and then the healing presence, we can all offer that, right? And the animals do it so beautifully. That was fun. So Renee, if you do my apparently I had 2 Richard Bachs, and so I don't know why I had that in mind, but apparently I have to say it to you again. So we teach best what we need most to learn. I'm getting like a little reminder from the universe. I just love this interaction, and I'd love to get to just a couple of questions while we can in our time together, because we all learn. We all learn together. And so Renee, if you would pop up, I'll get to as many as I can because the animal is definitely speaking. And this is Scott. Scott says, I looked for 6 months in the pound, but one day I found Sam. I knew he was my dog. We've been together 14 years since he was 3 months old. He is my everything, BFF, family, son. The love I have for him has no limits. He makes my heart overflow with love. Did we know each other before, and are we soulmates? Absolutely, you knew each other, and yes, you are soulmates. And that heart piece is something that you came to work on in yourself and to offer to others. Your heart is quite warm, and the two of you make he's saying dynamic duo. We are a dynamic duo. That is hysterical. And he says, you said he limps sometimes, licks his left front foot. What I'm hearing is it's tingly. It's tingly. And, without a full session, we need to dive into a little bit. He says it's tingly. So you may want to take a look at that. So I hope that helps. He's quite funny, actually. And this is Janet. I'm curious about the unseen bond that connects Riker, the border collie, and I. His parents have been walking and past my home daily for more than a year. I say hello to all the dogs walking by, but this boy and I seem to have a special soul connection. He will look for me every time he's passing my home and stare at me the entire time as he's walking past if I'm outside to greet him. It's like, I see you, like, I see you. His parents have let him come up to see me a couple of times, and he is so happy and then doesn't want to leave. He is such a sweetheart. Thank you for any insights. I love that the two of you have this like beautiful bond together, and he's not even, he is a part of your life, but you're not responsible for him. You're sharing energy is what you're doing in those stares. He is overjoyed that you received his message. And so I would look for this to continue. And I would also ask him, let's play with this. Ask him, what do you want to tell me today, Riker? Anything special? See what message drops in, because this is the channel and the portal's open when that's happening with you and with him. So I would totally play with that energy a little bit and see what messages come in. Thank you for sharing that. And this is Indigo. Since his transition, he has licked me, touched my skin, barked a few mornings trying to get me to walk early when he was here physically. And no, I think he is, and no, I think he is here. However, I don't see the signs of him anymore. And her question is, why did you wish to leave so young? You have at least 5 more years, my silky terrier sweetheart. That's beautiful. And something about, I don't know if you've written, but I'm feeling that you're a good writer as far as sharing your feelings and putting that down. That actually feels to me like it's going to be a way you can connect in the way that you're wanting. And when we have to have signs, it's like the sure sign we're not going to get it. That's the sign we don't get it, because it's not spirit on demand kind of thing. And even though we long for it, I would be open to any kind of sign however you want to show me. I don't have specifics. And it is definitely a karmic relationship. When they leave so young, it absolutely is a soul trigger. So, I would ask you to look at your life and how have you grown since then? I know your heart has broken, but how have you grown? Because that's what he's pointing to. And hopefully, as you move through this, you'll get some insights on of your own that make you feel sure that you've connected, no matter what the sign is. Well, we are out of time. It went super fast. I enjoyed it tremendously. I appreciate you coming and sharing yourself, sharing your animals. You make our time, and the animals make our time so sacred, and it is a holy encounter. So please join me. My next show is November 8th. I can't wait. Animals are already giving me downloads, and let's always keep the conversation going. Have a great week.
You've been enjoying Tami's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks.